to another episode of Convos with Sazón with yours truly, Cata Mejía. With me today is chef, culinary artist, and entrepreneur Stephanie Bonnin. How are you?
I'm fine. Surviving.
Surviving. Well, I'm happy to have you here, fellow Colombian as well. Que orgullo. To kick us off, I want to start off with your early beginnings. You know, what was your first interaction with food that made it click that it was more than just a survival thing? You know, there was something that you wanted to take to the next level. So tell me about that.
I always love food. I always love eating.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, when you go to a retrospective of thinking about how things happen, I remember being like a child in Barranquilla, Colombia, and wanting to go with my grandmother to buy the groceries, because if I go with her, I will get a bonjour or I will get a sandwich and stuff like that. I remember like cooking the first dinner for my family when I was 11 years old. And, my sister was a picky eater, and I love that because I will eat like her scraps. And I remember being this child that I love food so much. I mean, the best reward that somebody can give it to me is invite me to eat a hot dog or take me out. And my dad was a person that he really, really liked to eat as well and liked to cook. But as you know, as a fellow Colombian, as you said, it wasn't like having a career in culinary arts that's the degree that we got when we go to school to become a chef, or as many people that they train for so many years to have that title. Well deserved for sure, because this is a skill that you learn doing. It wasn't common in Colombia. You say, oh, I want to be a chef, or I want to be an artist. You have to choose something completely different. So for me to think about a career in food, it wasn't necessarily an option. I need to find another career. So for me, food at that moment was kind of like, something that I really enjoyed to do. But at the same time, I was conflicted about it, because like growing up in a society that the gender roles are so defined by so many different specific tasks in society, it was kind of like it was conflicted to me, because I want to become kind of like my own woman and I want to do my own thing. So I was like, should I pursue this, or you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? So when I moved to the United States, the beginning, I came here to study. I never thought that I'm going to stay here. I never thought that I'm going to make a life here. But if I tell you the truth, the first moment that I arrived here and I kind of like reclaim my own freedom for so many different things, just the fact to be a woman in Colombia. Just think about it. All the things have changed. I'm almost 40 years old. So maybe somebody that is 20 something is like hearing me and say like, oh, she's talking about. But what I'm saying is that when I moved here, and then I have kind of like, I went to school for law in Colombia, and then I have the alternative, or do I become a lawyer here and I do everything that I need to finalize that, or now I have the possibility to become anything that I want. So one of the things that I realized is that I like the creative fields. So I went to college here for like graphic design and marketing and art, because at the end of the day, if I go back, I always was an artist. So there's things that you don't see. And now my family say, oh, I can see that in you. I can see that you were a little bit different, that you were looking for different stuff. But that being said, to answer your question, the only reason that I decided to become a chef here or a cook in the United States is because I realized that we were lacking kind of like a representation. So there is so many different Colombian restaurants, delicious ones. But one of the things that I realized is that they represent kind of like a homogeneize. I'm sorry if I cannot say this word right. Homogenizing the Colombian cuisine. And being from the Caribbean coast, I didn't see my representation in that cuisine. And all those restaurants were far, far away. I mean, you live here in the Upper East Side. That was the first place that I moved, was the Upper East Side. But besides that, I used to love to be surrounded of people. So I remember starting like making like sancocho bailables in my apartment and expecting that my friends like, put some monitors, the ingredients. And then I realized that I had something there. Like I was just creating space for people, to celebrate our culture, but most important to celebrate our food, because, we are in the middle of a winter here.
Mhm.
The most amazing vehicle to transport you to another place is food.
Mhm.
And that's how it started. I mean, it started something with how knowing what I was doing and then realizing what exactly I was doing. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So many things that I resonated with, especially societal expectations and being forced to conform to a specific box. So you spoke about having been, studying to be a lawyer, coming here, kind of taking the more creative route. After you finished college or studies within that more creative route, and Los Sancochos Bailables, like, how did those two go hand in hand, if at all, in order to fully dedicate your time to being a culinary artist and leave law behind?
I always say this, and when you are a migrant, you become kind of like in a void. You are not from here, you are not from there. I don't know if that happens to you. When I get back home, there is a part of me that doesn't belong there anymore. Here, I will never belong here, especially with all the politics happening. Even if I have a blue passport, I already have a green card like a couple years ago. And in that void, there is people like you, like me. So of course, it's really rewarding and amazing to being able to have a creative outcome. But the most important was that opportunity to create that space for people like you and me, that we actually belong, the people that is in the void. So that's how La Tropic Kitchen started. It is a way for me to explore myself in the most creative, beautiful way through food, to be in a city like New York City, where we are exposed to every single culture and you are questioning yourself. How are you making a traditional Guajiro dry shrimp rice with shrimp that comes from Thailand? And then you start understanding landscape, migration, adaptation of tradition, are so many different things, and using that information as a creative outcome. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So obviously you were in charge of the food, right? But also creating an environment that paired with the food and what you served and the scents and the sights and the taste as well transported people completely. Talk about the thought process behind that. What went into actually creating the space that you're referring to?
There is something really important about that, creating that space, and that is the storytelling content component of it. So one thing is the creative part of me using all that information and create something that is really rooted on tradition. There is other thing about the space for people, as I said, that belong to this void, but also is the opportunity to talk about different narrative about Colombia. There is a lot of propaganda about our country. And one of the things that I realized also coming to this country is that there's so many people that have different ideas of what our country is. And it's always on my mind is, how can I contribute to change those narrative, or at least create other narrative that is not necessarily connected of what people think about us, and it's through our food. It's true about who we are, why we eat the way that we eat, why we are a regional country, why we are the result of like a tri-ethnical, outcome. We are indigenous, we are African, we are Europeans, we are Middle Easterns, and that's what make us who we are. So part of that is just like, using to creating, as you said, that space, and using that space as a creative outcome for me, but at the same time a place for people like you, and for people that are not like you, that also want to learn about who we are.
Timeline wise, how long ago did you come to New York?
12 plus 1 years ago. I cannot say the name 13 in Spanish.
Okay.
It's a Caribbean joke.
Okay. Okay. So it's been 13 years at this point, and throughout that time, walk us through, you're creating this space. What else are you doing simultaneously to feed your creativity and to continue to inspire that storytelling component?
I recently went to Asia for the first time, and I went to Japan. And the reason that I want to make this analogy is because one of the things that I realized about those cultures is that people master a craft for the rest of their life.
Mm.
When you came to a place like America, you have to wear so many different hats. You have to have so many different skills. In my timeline, I have done anything. I have like cooked from my house. I have served as a private chef for people that I'm really proud of who they are for us and for the culture. Like I've been sitting, like cooking for them. I'm hearing this conversation about how they create a space for people like me. It's beautiful. I have catered people's weddings that they call me, hey, I really want to celebrate our culture in this special day. I have like sell food from my window in the middle of a pandemic for my whole community. I have struggled a lot. I have my heart broken so many different times, because everything is not as happy, especially when you are a person that you are so community rooted and you care so much about people. Sometimes you don't receive it in the same way. But I also have open and closed a restaurant. So I've been through a lot, and that's what actually means me being a New Yorker. You hustle.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the serving people from your window during the pandemic.
Mm.
How did that come about? Obviously, I'm sure everyone can agree to a certain extent. It was unprecedented times all over the place, right? So how did that come into fruition?
So, I remember that I was doing this supper club. When anybody was talking about pop-ups and supper clubs, I was hosting a supper club in my apartment every Sunday. And the whole idea of that pop-up, Sunday pop-up, it was kind of like a recreate your grandma house. Because if you're Colombian, I don't know if you, but you always, is Sunday or Saturday the day that you go to grandma's. And it's all your family there, your uncle, your cousins. For some families, it's every week. For some families, every month. There's always that space happening. And I told my husband, like, I really, really, really want to do something like that, and people can come and feel that they are in kind of like in grandma's house. And the menu was comfort food, delicious, like from frijoladas to ajiaco to sancocho to like the things that you will eat at your grandma's. And the pandemic happens. And I remember that at that time, the New York Times wrote an article about pop-ups and how this kind of like a new thing, and they portrayed me. So it was kind of like the first time that Stephanie from Barranquilla, Colombia, was like, oh my God, I'm at the New York Times. And not necessarily because I'm doing something wrong. It's because I'm doing something exciting, something novelty, something even great. I was so proud of it. And then the pandemic happens. And then all that momentum that we gain and all this reservation, everybody wants to come to our supper club. People want me to start catering things. And I remember like, okay, this is a time for, I'm privileged. And it's really important to talk about privilege because everything that's happened to me hasn't happened if I have privilege. I have a position of being doing these things, opportunities. And I said, now I have the opportunity to just like stay quiet, slow down, and figure out what to do. And I remember my friend Camila Falquez, an amazing, incredible photographer that I'm really proud of her work. She said to me, like, hey, Steph, if you make fried fish with coconut rice and patacones, I will go and eat it from your steps of your apartment. And immediately I was like, okay, I have all the catering stuff. I'm going to set up a kitchen in my backyard. I'm going to make a flyer, fried fish and patacones, and coconut rice. And I put it on Instagram. I sell 42 fried fish, patacones, and coconut rice. And then I was like, oh my God. So now how are you going to keep like 45 fish on temperature? How are you going to cook it? Like, it's like creating the business and then the solution of it. Long, short story, I hustle a lot, but it happens. And I saw, okay, I have something here. And being able to give food in kind of like, I was serving these fried fish, plantains, and patacones in like cake boxes, because where else you can put like a red snapper. But the whole like, being from my apartment, my bedroom apartment window, giving these boxes and seeing people sitting in the steps in my block, eating and sharing, in a moment where everybody was so confused about what's going to happen, if they're going to see their family, or something as simple if we're going to die. it was rewarding and beautiful. So we keep doing that, and that's how like that project started. And I focus in a menu that people do in order to hustle and survive in places like Colombia, because my biggest mentor have been women carrier of tradition, that sometimes the only thing that you have to do is to start a business to support your family. You send your husband to fish, you fry the fish, you do it, or you set up an arepa business in the streets, or like a hot dog cart. And sometimes people forget that all those foods, they belong of people that actually do them as a way of survival. And I want to celebrate that specifically with that project on the window.
That's beautiful because, like you were saying, something so seemingly simple, right? Which, yes, what you served, but also the desire behind it, which is to be closer to home, to be closer to people at a time that we could not be further from all of those things.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I want to ask you about stability, the sense of stability. You know, in Latino households, stability is the goal. You know, parents teach you like un trabajo estable, que te haga contenta, or whatever the case may be, but stability is the goal that many, you know, work towards. Throughout your journey, how have you balanced choosing passion over stability at times, because you know that there's a bigger purpose to be served in that point in time?
That stability, it couldn't be any possible if it wasn't for my family supporting me. If it wasn't for a husband that, you know, we're being together for so many years and we've been through a lot, like, and I feel like happy and proud, because it has been a process where it hasn't been perfect. Nothing is perfect. But I feel that at some point, having the opportunity to be able to follow my passion and having months that are really, really, really good, or months that are really, really bad, that I have a partner that is supporting me to go and transition. And I think that there's so many people in that kind of situation. So it's really important to mention that for people like me, or for cases like mine, is always, there is an expression in English that is it takes a village. You know what I mean? And it's hard because in the line of work that I do, sometimes there is no Saturdays, no Sundays, no weekends, late hours when everybody just go 9 to 5 and life stops. That's not the case of me. And sometimes I need to set boundaries, you know, because at the beginning, my husband was helping me, like leaving the office and coming to do dishes or supporting me. And now it's really important for the safetyness of our family, you know, to set boundaries and separate our life from the business. And now I'm in a position where actually I can do that. But we, as a couple, as a business partner, as best friends, and as the best teachers of each other, by struggling in so many different ways, you know, we can give that opportunity to, so like we've been through a lot.
I love the idea of partnership, because that's what it is. You know, you said, en las buenas, en las malas, como amigos, como pareja, en todo
En la enfermedad y en la pobreza, ahí se ve el amor.
Sí. I love that. Many wish for that, for sure. When it comes to learning to set those boundaries, you know, talk about what happens behind the scenes that not many talk about. You know, those life lessons that a veces duelen aprenderlos, pero if it weren't for those moments, you wouldn't know the importance of having to set a boundary, or donde llega el trabajo versus where you can start your personal life.
So, what can I say? Boundaries are a really important lesson that you need to learn in adulthood. Setting them, understanding them. It's not necessarily the boundaries that you set. It's also the boundaries that people set to you, and you need to understand. That's so important, especially in places like New York City, where everybody talks about community. Everybody is like, oh my God, my community. And for some people, community is actually what it is. It's when you have a neighbor that support you, a partner, a friend, etc. But unfortunately, in a place like New York City, for many people, and that's part of my life lessons, community is a way of using that term as a way to extract, or they see it as a transaction all the time. And that's one of the biggest lessons that you have to learn in life in general, in your personal life, in your professional life. You know, no everyone is happy of you being successful. No everybody is happy for you. Nobody knows exactly how hard it is to be in a place where you can actually live of your passion or create spaces. I mean, we're Latinos in New York City. There's many people that have opened caminos for us to be able to, this conversation being easier for somebody like you and me. But that doesn't mean that it's hard. It's incredible hard. Yeah. So I think that you see, especially with the social media right now, social media show you that, I mean, you show yourself like somebody that is really happy, traveling, learning, all this different stuff, but nobody knows exactly what is behind the hard work. And I always said that the most disruptive thing that you can be as a human being is believe in yourself. So in a world where there's so many comparison, like you are understanding your success based off other people's success is really hard. I never have that problem. I always think about my process as a personal. I never compare myself with others. I celebrate my authenticity, and I think that that's really, really important. And I think that people that are really, really successful in life, the most important thing is to be authentic, being yourself. And it's really hard in these times, because you see it in every single art. It's a formula, and it's easier to follow the formula instead of like creating your own. But that being said, I don't know if I answer your question. I think that I talk like a couple different stuff, but I think that boundaries, especially in every single way, are really, really important in your family. I mean, especially we're Latinas. So just think about it. Like, I have all my arms tattooed. I have pink hair. I'm almost 40 years old. I haven't had kids yet. So just imagine how that looks in a Colombian household. So that's part of the boundaries that you set up. It's like, you know what? I need that you don't have opinions about myself, my decisions in life, and my body, especially, because everybody have the opinion of everybody's body. At work, the same thing. Set boundaries with your employees. You can be their friends. You can be supportive of them, but you need to be clear about what are the lines. And the same thing in the couple. Boundaries are really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. You did answer my question and then some, so thank you. You mentioned having done so many things in different ways, at a restaurant, outside your window, catering, events, things like that. How would you say you've maintained your personal touch, regardless of the setting in which you're serving people food?
I think that you become a successful artist when somebody can see your work and they know that it's yours without having your signature. And you can see that in every single art. I mean, I'm really happy. I have friends that are photographers. My friend Camila, for example. I can see a picture and I can know that that's a Camila picture. Or somebody that actually follow her work. So when you put yourself there, regardless that you're making a fine dining experience, you are like creating a product, you're whatever, is gonna have you there. And in my specific case, I'm a person that I have the opportunity to receive education here in the United States and also in Spain. But at the same time, I have kind of like travel all over Colombia to learn the Colombian traditional cuisine. Because as I said in the beginning, our cuisine is diverse, it's territorial, it's different, it's indigenous, it's African, it's European. We are in the third more diverse country of the world. So just imagine all the different things that we have. So I think that at the end of the day, the way that I keep myself grounded in my art is because it's a mix of tradition, but at the same time, it's understanding the world and how everything keeps adapting.
When you talk about your work, sometimes you've referred to yourself as a food ethnographer.
Okay.
And I know that part of it is because you have put in the work to
Yeah.
really see, to
Self-taught.
learn. Yes.
Because I don't want the ethnographers that actually have degrees coming here and say, no, self-taught ethnographer.
So talk about what that looks like in practice. You know, you started talking about just now taking the time to travel and to learn for yourself and experience. So how do you take those experiences and internalize them to then apply them to your work?
There is no understanding of food without territory or landscape. And there is no an understanding of food without culture. That's what I said that I'm a self-taught ethnographer, because after doing this work and writing about it, I used to make a lot of like mini documentaries. One of my friends that she's a anthropologist, and she refers to my work as a ethnography work, a food ethnography work. So she gave me actually the label, and I was like, okay. I went and Googled what that actually means, and I said, that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing that under like a research group, or I'm not doing that under like an institution, academical institution, but I do it by myself with my own, even my own money. I don't have any grants to doing this. And the reason that is so important for me, because storytelling is a really important part of my work. And as I said, food tells you so much about people. It tells you about where they came from, about their religion, because even religion have rules about how we eat and how we process certain foods. It tells you about socioeconomical, it tells you about many things. So it is beautiful. For example, if I talk about regional cuisine of Colombia and I talk like a specific landscape, how actually that food has been shaped by so many different things. Okay, to give you an example, La Guajira is a desert. Why they're drying shrimp? Because you need to preserve food. So you have to be creative. Like nowadays, this creativity is based on, to be an artist. Before, it was about survival. So why they're drying shrimp? Why they're making this fry like this? Why have this color? And some of those foods are ceremonial for people. So it's understanding that at the end of the day, the way that we eat is kind of like a trinity, for so many people. And that's kind of like the disconnection that we are feeling nowadays. For some people, it's medicine, it's nutrition, and ritual. Like a sancocho, to give an example. People get into these conversations, what is a traditional sancocho? And why we have it all over Latin America, or even worldwide. Who can say that a pho is not a sancocho? And that's the most perfect example that there is not a way like a wrong or right, because it represents the landscape. It's not the same as sancocho that you have in Honda Tolima next to the river, or one that you have in the mountains of Antioquia, or you have in the Caribbean coast. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, and I think it's fascinating because how you explain that goes to show the travels that you've had. So I'm curious to know, to expand on the storytelling component, what message, what stories do you want those consuming your food to understand in the process about Colombia, or about the care that it took to put that plate in front of them, your clients? Tell me more about that as well.
Right now, there is two terms that are really, really, really important for people to know, and it's food sovereignty and food sovereignty. And what is the other thing? Okay, I want to start with food sovereignty, and it's how people, and safety, sorry. So food security and food sovereignty. So the reason for, I'm going to give you an example. There is a sauce made in the Amazon that is called tucupillo ajo negro. So the way that they do it is taking the poisonous yuca, grinding it, straining it, and fermenting it. And the cianuro of the yuca becomes amino acid, because something tasty and delicious. is a tradition that has been preserved for so many different centuries, a lot of even before colonization. And the only reason why those food exists is because there's people or there's communities like fighting for their food sovereignty. You know what I mean? And the modern world have changed that. If you think about it, how many people have the opportunity to make an arepa from scratch? Because the world is changing, the way that we live is changing. Women are not necessarily at a kitchen like feeding families. A woman goes to work. So the world is changing, and we have to, at some point, to adjust to those changes. So for me, to make this food from scratch is as a way to preserve tradition. Because one of the things that I have seen on my trips is that food recipes, they are transferring oral tradition, generation to generation. So when you go to the communities, the younger generation, they don't want to make chichas and stuff like that. They're rather to have a Coca-Cola and a papita en la tienda. And I understand that. The world is transitioning. So for me, I decided to follow this line of work as a way of like documenting and preserving and also showing people how things are done from scratch.
How have you been able to continue to make things from scratch and follow tradition while simultaneously embracing the change that your career has brought? So we talked about the window, right, outside during the pandemic. You then had a physical space, el patio. So let's talk about that.
So el patio, el patio was a great master of the things that you should do and the things that you shouldn't do, for sure. Let's focus on the good things, right? I had the opportunity to, there is a word that I can even say, and I always ask Pablo, tell me how to do a pivot. Oh my God, pivot. I need to get a tattoo, pivot. Because it's the opportunity, and that's actually what's is being resilient is how you take all those lessons and you change the narrative. So when I started Patio, I won't lie to you, it was in a really challenging moments of my life. I never been as sad, as depressed, as upset with the world. And I'm really grateful of that project for like holding me in that moment, that really challenging moment of my life where I was shaping myself to become the woman that I right now, like deciding who are the people that I want to surround myself with, or the time that I want to spend. Something as basic as preserving my energy and taking care of my energy. And Patio hold me there. And it was beautiful to be able to put a vision and to have a group of people that they were like trying so hard to make it happen. And then we were like, we were behind a store. And it was really challenging, the dynamics with the store and having people to come through the store to come to us. So that created a little bit of conflict, with the scheduling, with defining the concepts and everything. So as I have to, to improve the situationship, as I like to call it, I decided to make this dinner series called Detalles de Fina Coquetería. Because having a cafe, you cannot be as creative. I create the dishes, and obviously you have to keep like price points, and you have to be able to kind of like make kind of like a cookie cutter thing. But then I was doing the Detalles de Fina Coquetería before in my house. And then I said, this is the time to bring the Detalles de Fina Coquetería back. And then I was hosting this dinner of 10 people, 10 strangers. Nobody knew what was the menu. I just have allergies and preference. A big communal table. And then my friend Braulio Centeno, an amazing lighting designer, decided the whole lighting for that experience, where we have all the table frame so you can see true colors. It was something kind of theatrical. And I've been collecting music for the past 10 years, especially music from the Caribbean and Africa. And then I was also, while people were eating, making a menu where there's a lot of storytelling, like making dishes like pebre de pato and explaining why we eat pebre de pato, and how that those dogs migrated from here to there, and when they arrive there, they're so skinny, but here they're fatty. So how can I just adapt it to it? and also playing music and talking about the music, you know, especially because music and food are the best vehicle to talk about the cultural adaptations, especially in the Caribbean coast. So, Detalles of Fina Coqueteria was amazing. It was incredible. It was kind of like that project that made me feel like more creative. It was more like a creative outcome. And it was a social experiment. In a moment of life where we are afraid of each other. And I don't blame people. I'm afraid. You know what I mean? But creating a safe space for people. You know how happy I was that after I finished the dinner, all the table, so many times the whole table lived together to go party. The 10 of them. Okay, we're leaving. Some of them are friends. I mean, I've been to events of other people. Oh, we met. So I don't know how to explain it, but it was amazing. I don't know if I answered your question again.
You did. So, okay, El Patio was behind a store.
Mm-hmm.
When did you open and when did you decide to close?
So I opened in February, like a year ago.
Okay.
And then the space have some issues.
Yeah.
I was renting there and it have some issues that they weren't easy to fix. And it wasn't in my scope to fix. I was renting. So having Detalles of Fina Coqueteria working and at some point even paying for the morning operation, I was like, listen, I don't really want to have a cafe.
Yeah.
Why have a cafe? Because obviously when you are a chef, you have to open a space. You have to have your, and I was like, why have a cafe? Why am I losing? I mean, I've been working for a whole year and I haven't made any money, like barely any money.
Yeah.
So why I'm doing this? I mean, if I have this dinner series that people actually like, so I shut it down and then I moved to a studio. And that's how Estudio Tropical was born, as understanding necessarily what I really want to do as a culinary artist. You know, my place is not a restaurant. My place is a studio, like creating a studio for creativity, for community, for events, for everything that can be possible. So I'm really proud to be able to pivot the whole idea and having like a studio or a space to be able to do my own things, but also to create opportunity for others.
Talk about that, the opportunities that you're creating for others.
When I started, I mean, when you do arts, it's easy because if you are a painter, you find a place to paint. When you do a sculpture, I'm not saying that it's easier for them, different challenge. When you're a cook, you need a different kind of infrastructure. And infrastructure is something really important for us because we depend of what we can do, but at the same time of the space that we can do those things. So I was, after doing pop-ups in so many different places, in so many other spaces, I get to the position to think, what about if I had at that moment a space where I can just rent it and do my thing and bring my community and being able to do my dinner. I have this acquaintance that he is a Broadway actor, like no one, and he loves to cook, and he have the people that likes to go to his supper club. And thanks Daniel, because Daniel opened my mind saying like, what about if instead of having my menu all the time, because I love to travel. Past year, I didn't travel anywhere. It was hard. I said, what about if people are not just expecting my food, just have the studio, and then somebody like Daniel can come, bring their own people, have the infrastructure for him, and he paid me like a fee for that. So that's the opportunity to open a space for others, because you don't have to have the responsibility, but you can set up your dinner there. Or, for example, I want to make my birthday. I don't want to go to a restaurant. I don't want people harassing me to leave right away the space. I just want to be able to have it and be freely who I am. So that's why Studio Tropical was born. And also, I'm really happy that I have now my vinyl sets, because I love to play music. I mean, I'm not a DJ. God forbids. That's another thing. But I think that especially being Latinos, music is something really important for us. It's the way that we celebrate, and I have an amazing collection of music. So have a space for my music collection, have a space for my book collection, and have a kitchen. It's like living the dream.
Yeah. Speaking of living the dream and being able to put all of the things that you love under one roof, right? Without boxing yourself in into it has to be this one thing or it has to be another. What do you hope people feel when they arrive to the space and after they leave, having consumed your food, having heard the music that you very carefully curated?
I want that they feel themselves and they being safe. It's really important. I need that nowadays safe spaces are really, really important. And unfortunately, there's no many of them. So for me, at the end of the day, what I expecting for people to come to us is first, they can be themselves. They don't need to be performative. They can be themselves. They can like have a good time, enjoy good food, get to know new people, kind of like a build community, even though that I'm being conflicted with the term community for the past 2 years. And you know, and they can tell their friends that there is a space there where they can be safe.
Among the many things that you've done to kind of inform your work, you know, it's been looking at the idea of migration, right? From your personal experience de Barranquilla, Colombia a Nueva York, going to Spain to study. And I know that migration routes are one of the many stories that you tell in your work. So talk a little bit more about that.
Migration is a human necessity. There's no any culture, civilization, or place in the world that hasn't depend of migration because we're humans. We are looking for better opportunities for ourselves and our communities. My story of migration is different than other people because it's my own, it's personal, like yours, like anybody else. I was pursuing other things. But I think that it's really important to understand that migration as something really bad, seen as something beautiful, because migration brings diversity. And countries, organizations, places with diversity are more rich, sturdy, better, amazing. So that's basically what I think about migration.
Would you say that nostalgia is an ingredient?
Yes.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so for me, the best compliment that somebody can give me is like this tastes like mom or my grandma. My mom, my grandmas, they shaped me who I am. And I'm really proud to be the daughter of Lubeti, the granddaughter of Isabel and Dilma. And also the niece of Anatilde, Julia, Esperanza, Isabel, Angela. All those women that have shaped me who I am. And even though that I don't came from like a strong cooks, they taught me other skills. But the way that I say that a nostalgia is another flavor is because I don't know if you saw the movie Ratatouille.
One of my favorite movies
I know,
ever.
right?
When he bites into the cheese and then and there's like fireworks.
Exactly.
Eso para mí es mágico. O sea, eso para mí es algo que uno de verdad siente cuando tú cierras tus ojos y como you take everything in and it's not just food for survival, but it's an experience. Me parece divino.
Conecta con la emoción.
Sí.
Con lo que tú eres.
Sí.
Con el recuerdo, con la memoria, la nostalgia. Because nurturing food is like an abracito al corazón, as I call it. So, of course, I mean, just think about this. You can be here. I mean, I was in Switzerland last week. I was in Zurich. This is a huge milestone of my career because I was, there is like this beautiful project called Cata. And this is Maria Lores from Armenia, Pereira. She immigrated to Switzerland with her mother, Luz, a strong woman that she impacted me a lot. And she started like selling beautiful, like a high end, like a curated beautiful, like Colombian artesanías. And then she wanted to open space for her mom, and they started an areperia. We are fan of each other projects, But going back to the nostalgia, they started this areperia, and she said, like, I want you to consult me and help my mom to set up the recipes and stuff like that. And the exercise that I was doing as a consultant is, okay, let's go back to the memory. Let's go back to your memory, because at the end of the day, this is Luz's kitchen, not Stephanie's kitchen, even though that I want to bring something back to you. Let's go to the memory. And to see, you know, because I have seen that same exercise here in New York through my pop-ups and stuff like that, but to see that amplify in a place like Zurich, that is not necessarily the most diverse place of the world. Everything worked like a clock. And seeing families, like the Colombian girl married with the Swiss guy, coming and having an arepa, and the guy saying, this remember me to Colombia. Oh, this remember like your mom's. Is that dopamine hit that you get when there is a familiar flavor that if you live in Barranquilla or you live in, where are you from?
All over. Bogotá, Medellín, Cali, all over.
Like me, like a mutt. Okay, that's why we're beautiful.
Pero 100% Colombian, eso sí.
Okay, same. I mean, I'm from my family is from Manizales and Medellín and Ciénaga, and I was born in Barranquilla. But that's what I'm saying. Like when you are there, you don't feel it that much. That when you are here and you have an arepita, plus if takes like home or like mom or like grandma, is the most umami flavor ever. And the people can understand. It happens to me because you see the people that from Colombia so excited, and then you see, you know, their white partner. Oh yeah, it's tasty. Dude, you will never understand it. You didn't grow up with.
Yeah.
You know, get your mac and cheese.
I think we could both agree, and it's also a fact that Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world, in addition to so many other things that makes it beautiful and unique. How would you say biodiversity shapes identity, both in food, in the preparation, in the environment that you are looking to also create when people come to your space?
Oh my God, you asked so many different questions. Okay. Can you repeat it?
Yeah. Colombia es un país
Super diverse.
súper biodiverso.
Okay.
¿Cómo dirías tú que esa biodiversidad ayuda a formar la identidad, sea de la comida que estás sirviendo, del ambiente que estás tratando de crear, y cómo esas dos cosas se juntan en el espacio que tienes?
Eso es muy importante porque la biodiversidad se representa no solamente en el landscape, it gets represented in so many different ways. So we were talking about Funi, the person that contact us. Funi came from a Middle Eastern heritage. So probably for her, the tape, I mean, we both of us, we came from Barranquilla, Colombia, but having like a paisa family, my breakfast was an arepa paisa with some huevito, with some hogadito. If I go to my other classmate house, it's gonna be arepa huevo because probably that family is more Caribbean than mine. And if you go to Funi's house, it's gonna be like a Lebanese table. So what I'm trying to say with that is the possibility to make a menu where I'm serving hummus, you know, and at the same time I'm saving a caribañola and explaining how a caribañola have that shape because probably was inspired by that like Lebanese kibbeh. So that's kind of like the most beautiful opportunity. I think that I cannot be more proud to be Colombian and most important to be Caribbean. I always said in social media all the time when something like that happened, I say, Mom, thank you for giving birth to me in the Caribbean. I'm so proud to be Caribbean. I'm so proud to be Colombian because actually that baggage made me rich, made me diverse, made me understanding of so many different things, you know, and especially in food. Like, I will never forget when I went to Lorica, Córdoba, and you will find in a mesa of fritos a kibbeh. To give you an example, a kibbeh. You can in living in New York City, I go to Lebanese restaurant, Middle Eastern restaurant, and there is a kibbeh. And now you understand how that actually happened. It's cultural adaptation.
Speaking of cultural adaptation, but more importantly, pride, right? I also am very proud to be Colombian for everything, the good, the everything.
Me too.
Because I think we're very resilient people as well. and we're very proud regardless of all the things. Speaking of the pride, specifically talking about Colombian pride, how do you represent a country that has so much diversity when in many instances, but especially when it comes to the cuisine? You just gave incredible examples. Even within Barranquilla, you're gonna have very different looking tables on the same block or on the same neighborhood. So what is that the common thread that regardless of the dish that's in front of you, what makes it Colombian? Like, what is that? What are those qualities that make it Colombian regardless of what it is?
I give you an example. So recently for Bon Appetit magazine, I talk about the Colombian hot dog. How can you talk about the Colombian hot dog where each even car have different recipes? I mean, I can talk about elements that intersects or elements that I can see more present in a specific recipe. But the biggest problem is when you try to like totalize everything. And that's why I don't, first of all, when you say like I represent, I don't want to represent anything. I don't want to have that weight on my shoulders, you know, because I'm a human being. And as a human being, I'm imperfect. So I don't want to have that responsibility to represent. The only thing that I can do is be truly to myself, tell the stories through my own personal experience of what I understand of something, not necessarily how I believe it, how I feel it, and open the conversation to be my voice, the equal, to talk about other people's stories that they have told me. So, because it's hard. There's no possibility that you can totalize something as Colombian cuisine or Colombian culture in general. That video has so many views, and you don't understand how much harass and hate I have received because I put coleslaw in a hot dog, where people from so many different places of the country were like, "No, dude, I ate in many places hot dogs with coleslaw," and and I'm sorry that your mind is so narrow that in your 4 squares where you live, that doesn't a hot dog with coleslaw. But my own personal experiences, I've had it. So every time that I try to talk about Colombian food, I never said this is right or wrong. This is my own experience. And when I went to this place, it was served this way. This is my own personal preference. I like to put a lot of pineapple, and this is the hot dog that I grew up with. So I try to tell those stories as my own personal experience. That's why storytelling is so important. Because as I said before, I don't want to have that representation flag over my shoulder. You know, even though that I try to be truly to myself and feel proud of my culture and who I am as a person as well. But at the same time, you know what I mean? I getting back to being proud of something, I think that when you're really, really proud, sometimes those lines can be really blurred because people feel that they own something and that belongs to them. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I make cheese. I have this project that is called Descrémame Esta, and I know that I have like a double sense, but every time that I'm traveling, driving, and I have the opportunity to have raw milk, I make cheese and suero costeño. You know what I mean? And the only reason that I do that is because somebody kindly, nicely told me how to do it. That doesn't belong to me, even though that I grew up in the Caribbean and I have breakfast every single morning with that. But I didn't grow up in a farm. I didn't milk a cow, and I didn't have a grandma showing me how to make cheese or suero costeño, even though that I grew up eating that. So that doesn't belong to me. I'm grateful enough to have the opportunity to learn from somebody that actually that tradition belongs to them. So that's why it's really hard when we get into those things, because sometimes we feel that because we carry a Colombian flag in our hands, we feel that everything that entitled belong to us. And it doesn't. Unless that you have lived under that circumstances, or you are grow up with that specific music, or you have the opportunity that a community accept you and decided to pass that tradition to you, that even though that doesn't belong to you.
That's a really good point. Going back to Estudio Tropical, how can people experience it for themselves? Like, do you have regular events? Is it individually contracted? Tell us more.
So Estudio Tropical is an studio, is like me, is a space for creativity, the possibility of everything from the nothingness to the everythingness.
Okay.
So right now we're in the process of building it. It's been beautiful. I don't have any investors. I don't have any financial muscle besides the work that I can do. And as everybody living in New York City know how challenging that can be. I don't have millionaire parents or husband as many people think. I really work really hard and I try to be as disciplined as I can. Um, as I said before, like the space is taking their own shape. At the beginning, I don't want a restaurant, but I need a place because one of the biggest mistakes that I made is bringing everyone to my own personal and safe space, which is my house. That's the biggest mistake that you can make. Don't bring people to your house. Don't do that. Don't bring those energies. So one of the talking about the limits to my house, my family, and my closest circle, nobody else. But then I need a space to do my thing. So I say, okay, I need a space. What that is gonna be, okay, detalles de fina coquetería, but guess what? I don't know how I did this, but I convinced a company to put their showroom at my space as well. So I'm sharing the space with a distributor of so many different European brands. So I'm gonna be also selling like kitchen equipment. So if you are looking for kitchen equipment, go to me. I'll demo to you and everything. But at the same time, open the conversation and the space because designing the space right now has been like challenging because it have to be a showroom, it have to be my dinner series, it have to be a production kitchen, but I also have to be a space for learning and sharing. So how can you keep in mind all those different concepts and make a space that works for all of them? You know, it's like having a polyamorous relationship. How you make everybody's happy. Actually, yes. So right now we are, as I said before, like I always done, like 2 weeks ago, I did like a sancocho bailable. And because the New York storms, the stoves didn't arrive on time. So I get back to square one when I start doing my pop-ups with that many resources. I'm suffering so much. And I was so grateful to the universe for remembering me and humble me in the most beautiful way, where you have to do it. You have to figure it out stuff and you have to try and survive. So we did the first sancocho bailable. I'm sorry, I want to use this opportunity to all my clients that are being supporting me and probably have like a cold soup the first 10 ones. I'm so sorry. Thank you for supporting me and being so loving and caring. But that's part of the process, you know what I mean? Like you have all this experience and sometimes things doesn't happen the way and you have to pivot it. But that being said, you know, we start hosting things and something beautiful happened last week. I met this beautiful woman, Doña Luz. So I'm grateful for the two Luzes that I have met for the past 2 weeks, Luz from Zurich and Luz for Jackson Heights. Beautiful woman with a beautiful like life story, and she's been making empanadas for 42 years in these places in Jackson Heights. And I was like, Doña Luz, do you want to teach an empanada class in my studio? Yes, I want to do it. Perfect. Empanada workshop by Luz. And that's how the spaces start taking shape. So you can do what you can with what you have. That was told by my friend Braulio too. You can do what you can with what you have. That's part of like being resilient. So with the studio, you name it. You want to make your party, we do it. You want to do, you know, it's a space for creativity.
Okay, perfect.
Also for shootings.
Perfect. So if anyone is interested, they will find Tropical Kitchen. Tropical Studio.
Estudio Tropical.
Estudio Tropical on Instagram. And they'll send you all their ideas, and that's how they can get in contact.
We work it together.
Perfect. Second to last part of our conversation, I'd love to turn the floor over to you to share any exclusive scoop, anything that's coming up, big or small, that you want to use this space to talk about.
Guys, prepare for me because today I received amazing news. I'm going to have a really interesting landscape in New York City. I cannot say that much about this project, but what makes me really happy is that I was considered for it. It is a really important place in New York City where people spend their summers in the city. And and the whole concept, it is like changing the whole beach experience, like where you have a lobster roll and just like a clam chowder. This project is the celebration of the coast of America, understanding America in a Bad Bunny way, which was really important as a continent, and about how like to be able to be the chef of this project where we're gonna be celebrating Atlantic, North Pacific coast. And no, what I'm talking about, Atlantic, North Pacific coast doesn't exist. It's Atlantic or Pacific. But what I'm trying to say, Caribbean, South Pacific, North Pacific, North Atlantic, South Atlantic, and teaching people about how that cuisine changed is beautiful. So I just got the news today. You will hear about this more. I think that one of the things that my family have told me is that you have to protect your information as well. But
Yes.
I want to let you know that I'm really excited. I'm really happy. It's a huge responsibility, but the main motor, the main, like, ¿cómo se dice? Impulso.
The motivator.
My biggest motivator is representation, because this is the moment of like we need representation and we need to be seen in big platforms because we also belong to here.
Amen. That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure we will all find out more in months to come, but for the time being, congratulations. Qué orgullo, ¿verdad? I like to end many of my conversations with rapid fire, just a super quick, fun way to end the way. So, a dish that tastes like your childhood, if you had to just pick one.
Wow. A dish that tastes like my childhood. Okay. So I will say guineo con queso from my grandma in Ciénaga, Magdalena. Guineíto con queso. I never understood why my breakfast at my grandparents from my father's side was arepita con huevo y hogao. Y una
Delicioso.
Delicioso, delicioso. That was my breakfast today, my celebratory breakfast. And then when I went to my grandmother, my grandfather, my abuelo Gilberto, I want to have the opportunity to talk about this man because he have shaped me who I am. My grandfather, founder of La Danza del Caimán in Ciénaga, a personality in his town. I just recently, like 1 month ago, went there, and he was celebrated by the whole town. It was so proud. And somebody that actually was so rooted on his culture. But that being said, remember my grandfather that he also was an athlete, and he will go everywhere in a bicycle. Even like recently, he will call his bicycle la burrita consentida, and he have the resources to get a car. He have the resources to buy a motorcycle, but he never did it. He likes to go on his bicycle. So I remember my grandfather coming back home with un racimo de guineo, and my grandmother like boiling guineo and queso. So that's for me my childhood.
Beautiful. What's a smell that immediately makes you emotional?
Firewood. Un fogón de leña.
Why? Where does it transport you to?
It transports me to many family get-togethers on La Finca, where speaking about the ritual food, if you kill a gallina, it's a sacrifice. And then that gallina is killed in order to nurture us. It's a ritual. And then you are going to the farm and you're getting the plantains and you're getting everything from the landscape. So that smell of firewood, it means that there is going to be an amazing soup that is, if you're like patient enough, it's going to happen. And it means family. And that's one of the things that there's so many chefs nowadays. If you want to know if a chef is really, really good, give them firewood. Everybody can cook with a Thermomix, with a combi oven, but give them firewood to see what they're going to do.
Noted. A moment that you considered potentially quitting?
Recently, like everything is so difficult right now. Life is heavy for all of us. I mean, it's not easy to see a genocide on TV and see that every day there's so many people struggling, like recently in Colombia, a whole town, it was flooded. and seeing the videos of people trying to get, to
Escape.
to escape, and finding for help. And the word Central Kitchen was contact me, how can we support? And sometimes you feel that those things like really, really, really close. But then you also, like, you know what I mean? Like, I close a restaurant, now I have to do a build up, and all this life is heavy, and all this different stuff. And I was so close to give up, so close. And I have a moment of retroinspection, like 3 days ago, and he said, can I use bad language here?
Yeah.
I said, fuck no. Fuck no. And immediately, like, changing because if your mindset is negative, everything is going to be negative around you. You cannot see the good things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it clouds your judgment.
I said, no, fuck no. I work really hard, and I really have my heart and my soul in the right place, and I care too much. Like, and life shape you, and life humbles you, and you need to keep going.
On the other side of that coin, what has been a moment that stands out in your career thus far that reaffirms why you're doing what you're doing and said, tomé la decisión correcta, por eso es que lo estoy haciendo?
Can I say this in Spanish?
Yes.
Because I want
Adelante.
I want my mom to be able to understand this.
Dale.
So, cuando yo decidí dejar el derecho, mi abuelito, que en paz descanse, mi abuelo Guillermo decía, pero usted, ¿por qué quiere cocinar para la gente? Porque claro, en su mentalidad el cocinero es sirviente. Y claro, la familia siempre está buscando mejores oportunidades, y mi abuelito fue una persona que hizo, o sea, fue una persona self-made. Y yo le decía, abuelito, ¿yo por qué quiero ser una abogada mediocre si puedo ser la mejor cocinera? Y en ese momento apenas estaba empezando mi carrera. Y mi mamá, ¿sabes cómo son las mamás colombianas? Ay, tanto que yo me jodí para que tú, o sea, ¿me entiendes? Y lo que ella logró entender después es que todos esos semestres de derecho me sirvieron para ser la cocinera y la self-taught ethnographer que soy ahora, ¿no? Y a mí no se me olvida una vez cuando el periódico de Barranquilla me sacó en su revista. Entonces era la carátula de la revista, y yo no entendía eso. O sea, a mí nunca me ha gustado ese tipo de atención, si estoy 100% honesta contigo. Y de pronto estoy yo preparándome para un Sudemo, y yo veo a mi mamá sacando la revistica de la cartera y mostrándosela a sus amigas. Yo decía, wow, yo por este momento voy a vivir el resto de mi vida. Porque a la final del día yo estoy viviendo the wildest dream of my mom and my dad and every single ancestor behind me. You know? Porque uno a veces no se da suficiente crédito, pero hacer lo que uno hace en un lugar como Nueva York, eso no es una posibilidad que se le abre a todo el mundo, y yo estoy extremadamente agradecida por mi familia, por toda la gente que ha permitido que yo pueda vivir mi pasión, y por toda la gente que ha apoyado mi proyecto. Y me costó muchísimos años de entender realmente lo que yo hago.
Qué orgullo.
Sí.
Y mucho crédito para ti y a tu familia también. Tú mencionaste al principio que it takes a village, y eso es parte central de tu
todo.
pueblito, o sea, de los que lo han hecho posible. Así que qué lindo, de verdad.
Claro.
Que le hiciste un shout out. Últimas 2 preguntas. What does sabrosura mean in your life beyond food?
Sabrosura. Sabrosura is being Caribbean. I telling you, sabrosura is something, I mean, I understand them being in Zurich. I understand why they do banking, watches, and pharmaceuticals. I always said that. Oh my God, I shouldn't say that. But that being said, like, everybody have their own thing. And our thing is la sabrosura. It's a way of living. It is a way to understanding everything with so much passion. Passion is good, but people like us, that we have so much passion, we came to this world to regulate our passion and understand our passion and embrace our passion.
And share it.
Because passion can get you to really weird places. So that being said, sabrosura is a way of living. It's a way to savor everything, understand and feel it. in a society where you are condemned for feeling your feelings because it's a weakness, you know. And I always gonna understand sabrosura because I mean I can go to the nonsense where people think that a sabrosura is aesthetical icons or like everybody talks about sabrosura. I la sabrosura. No, sabrosura is feeling with so much passion because you cannot you cannot savor something if you don't feel it
And passion cannot be taught.
at all.
Passion is something that you have internamente, y la tienes o no la tienes, and you'll know what sparks it. I
Oh my God.
completely agree.
I love your voice in Spanish, girl.
Ay, muchas gracias.
Nena, yo que quiero empezar el podcast Los Consejeros del Perreo, te voy a tener así, pero
Amo, por favor, considérame. Bueno, última pregunta, la puedes responder en inglés o en español. You can do this in English and Spanish or both in Spanglish. Si tu trayectoria fuese representada en un plato, if your journey were to be represented on a food plate, what would be on that plate? ¿Qué pondrías en ese plato?
we have a dish in the Colombian Caribbean coast that is called pastel de arroz. Just imagine a tamale. Just imagine a paella wrapped in a banana leaf or like bijao leaf. And I love that dish because it was my first acercamiento with a beautiful community in Pital de Megua, Baranoa, and Atlántico. And these were like a group of women that they get together to not necessarily just promote this dish, but also to create like a financial and economical opportunities for them. Women, we have the capacity that men doesn't have, that we create opportunities for us and for our communities. Women are center of like development. And that's why I always talk about of women empowerment, not necessarily like about the performative feminists that everybody talks about it. It's about actually women get together to support each other, you know, in a society where, you know, we are told that other woman is our competition, and we are like a, you know, seeing other women as a you know, and it's so sad. I mean, I feel sorry about people that think that way. But that being said, and then they made this dish, and they were like, now we cannot use any animal de monte because it's protected, because, of course, government have bigger agendas to promote other industries like the chicken industry and the pork. But that's another story. That's for another podcast. That being said, that dish is the representation of how our cuisine has been adapted. And this is the dish that I always present every time that I'm invited to do something, because you have the banana leaf or the technique of wrapping food as a preservation, but at the same time, the way that you carry the traditional Latino Tupperware when you make it envuelto, no? And then you have the seasonings that represent the landscape. But then I've been doing that dish here with different elements, like using demi-glaces to put on top of it. That means that I've been trained in like a formal culinary school, but at the same time using elements like making vegan. You know what I'm saying? So I think that if a dish can represent me, it will be the pastel de arroz, because, you know, even the pastel de arroz itself, it tells you the way that they use the coloring in the food, African, the way that they braise proteins and use of the rice, American, European, and then put in olives and even eggplants, Middle Eastern. So it's a dish that represents how culture has been adapting, and also represent how many women or people has been surviving, because sometimes in December, you are giving a pastel as a gift. It looks like actually a gift. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, that's beautiful. To end this wonderful conversation, I would love to know a dream that you want to speak into manifestation. You're working on so many things, and you already have, you know, the studio in motion, but if the sky was the limit, if no resource or anything was an issue, what would be the dream for you?
A house in the Caribbean.
Okay.
No, actually, no. Yes. And I'm going to have it, hopefully manifesting that, because you have to manifest
You do have to manifest
You
it.
have, I mean, that's really important that you said that, because always the skies are the limit. as I said before, there's no impossible. Like, I just do your thing, don't look others, be right to others, and
Amen.
things are gonna happen to you.
Amen.
There's no shortcuts, and unfortunately, there are so many places where people think that, you know, taking advantage of others is a way to survive, and those people get places, but I don't recommend you that route. That being said, I mean, I don't know what I say this, but the only way that I say it, because we're talking about skies, is are the limit. I have two big dreams. One is to have the discipline enough to write my book, you know, and the other one is a family. I want to become a mother and live in peace, you know, and as you said before, any of those things represent any resources. It's just a mindset, you know, and so many things that sometimes are not necessarily under my control. It's something that I can happen. If the universe and God give me the opportunity.
Pues que se te dé eso y mucho más. Thank you so much for joining me. Qué orgullo colombiano, de verdad. I hope you had as much fun as I did in sharing your story.
No, thank you. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all for listening and watching. Until next time.